There's been another mass shooting in Cape Town, this time in Philippi. 3 people were gunned down when unknown gunmen ambushed the victims in their home in the early hours of yesterday. The city's townships, such as Gugulethu and Khayelitsha, have been hit with deadly gun violence in recent weeks. Western Cape Community Safety MEC Anroux Marais joins us now for more. MEC, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. It's quite disturbing, the number of shootings that we are seeing happening so sporadically over a very short period of time. What do you believe are the factors that are contributing to this violence?
Good evening and good evening to our viewers. You know, the recent mass murders we've seen in Cape Town over the past period is very alarming and speaks of a bigger issue that I have tirelessly voiced publicly since I assumed office. We're not sure what exactly was the reason, but it can be because it was payday, it can be extortion, but SAPS didn't release what exactly was the reason. But for me, is the illegal arms and ammunition that's available on our streets is very concerning. And recently in July only, SAPS as well as our LEAP officers did confiscated 50 illegal firearms and ammunition. And it points that the real effort is made by our LEAP officers and law enforcement and SAPS to rid our streets of illegal firearms. As you know, it's a mammoth task, and considering the amount of illegal firearms in circulation.
And do you find that there are particular areas or communities that are targeted, especially where you then get to confiscate these illegal arms? Is it giving you an indication of a focus area?
Yes, you know, recently it was focused in Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, also Mufuleni, and then there was one area in more Belhar area, but it's more in Khayelitsha and Philippi East areas. And that's why we believe it might be, I don't want to speculate, but it might be extortion related. And as I've said, you know, the illegal firearms and ammunition is really a big concern. And that's why we really need more crime intelligence. You know, the recent alarming allegations or explosive allegations made by General Mkhwanazi urged me to reiterate that we want the evolution of power, and specifically the crime intelligence powers to be devolved down to municipal level and to provincial level. We believe that it will help us a lot to confiscate and know where the supply of illegal alarms is coming from.
So, I mean, in the past week, like we've mentioned, there's been a number of these shootings. What has been the immediate response of your department in ensuring that this is curbed with regards to these shootings?
What our immediate response was, you know, our LEAP officers, we've multiplied, they are force multiplier, and then we send them to deploy them to our areas with law enforcement officers of the City of Cape Town, as well as SAPS office, the anti-gang unit as well. And then also we have also deployed our K9 units to help us in combating this terrible crimes that's happening.
And do you find that there's trust amongst communities, especially when it comes to law enforcement, in order to ensure that some of these crimes are curbed?
I must be very frank, not in all the communities. We do get some trust issues that, you know, some people that do trust LEAP and SAPS, and as well, because they in the areas regularly, and with the neighborhood watches working together with them and our CPFs, there's more trust, but it's still an issue. We're working very hard on to get that trust issues resolved in our areas.
And I think with a trust deficit, it must be quite challenging for some of those law enforcement entities to be able to enter these communities and also just to get information with regards to who, like you were saying, the kingpins are. So what are they stating to be the main challenges that they face when it comes to these crimes?
The main challenge is that they don't have the crime intelligence. They're battling with that, and SAPS is understaffed and under-equipped. So that's one of the big challenges. But I must say, because they're in the area regularly, we've got our hotspot areas, and then we deploy, or SAPS and LEAP officers deploy them in these areas. So there's much more trust. And we call on our communities to trust them, and they can give us information without stating their name or showing their face. And the city also said that they will give, if there's any information about illegal arms, they will reimburse those people. But the illegal arm must be confiscated. You just can't give information, and we can't get the guns off the street anyway.
Some political parties argue that the DA ruling within the Western Cape has really concentrated much on some of the more affluent areas and has not given enough attention to townships such as Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, Philippi, and some of the Cape Flats, Hanover Park, where you see drug use and the use of guns escalating on a daily, weekly and monthly basis. What's your take on that political debate with regards to how the Western Cape is being ruled in relation to crime?
Now, I must tell you really that our LEAP officers are all deployed to our gang-related areas. I must say, Khayelitsha, Mofuleni, Gugulethu, some in Atlantis, Belhar, Mitchell's Plain. So there are more LEAP officers and SAPs deployed to those areas than in affluent areas. The affluent areas, they use more private security. So we really deploy our areas in the hotspot areas where there's crime-related and gangsterism that's roaming the areas.
So are there any collaborations with community-based initiatives that then assist some of those SAPS officials that are on the ground in those areas?
Yes, just recently with all the killings in Mitchell's Plain, we've worked closely with the community as well as the community CPF. They're driving this initiative, as well as all our interfaith-based organizations, NGOs, and we're working very close. We've had some marches last week, I think 2 weeks ago, on a Sunday, and we're working very closely with our communities, because it's all about the communities. We can't just come in and say, that's what we want. We ask them what they want and see how we can work together to have a safer community for everyone to thrive in.
And any preventative measures that you're putting in place to stop some of the violence before it happens?
Yes, we, as POX, our Police Oversight Community Safety, our departments got a coordination role of all the departments. So what we call it is the whole of society approach, the whole of government approach. We have our Department of Social Development, Economic Development, as well as health, our Sport and Arts and Culture Department. We all work together to provide some programs to be proactive and not always have just a knee-jerk reaction on these killings. It's not easy, it is complicated, but I believe we will get there, and we will eventually have healthy communities with a job in each home. But as I've said, it is not easy, it's a mammoth task, but we will take it step by step and eventually will rectify and have healthy communities.
And a mammoth task that's faced throughout the country, not only in the Western Cape, because we are seeing the crime levels at which they currently are. Then what are your key indicators when you are monitoring in order to measure the progress that you're making in ensuring that violence is lessened in the Western Cape?
What we do is we have data-driven and evidence-based stats that we use. Usually we use all our murder stats from health, and we see where's the area that there's more murders or more violence, and then we concentrate on those areas to curb and see how we can handle, just bring down the murder rate That is what we want. And then what we also do, where there's shootings, we have some people that comes in just to do the debriefing, especially with our children, because it is not a nice area. It's a living experience, and it's violent, and they're fearful. So that's what we also do in those areas.
And collaborative efforts amongst departments themselves. I mean, you speak about the effects these things have on small children. So I can imagine those psychosocial support that these children need. So what are the linkages between yourselves and social development in ensuring that not only are these children unharmed, but also that they then also don't become perpetrators when they are adults?
Yeah, you know what, we're working very closely with the Department of Education for school safety, as well as with DSD, our social development department. And then what's very interesting is that, we concentrate on our dropouts. We do have truancy calls with the LEAP officers that I go with, and then we get the kids that's not in school or that drop out or just lingering around. We get them off the streets. We refer them to a social worker in social development, as well as with education, and to see how we can prevent them from getting involved with criminal activities and with the gangsterism. It's all about the sense of belonging. So we try and let them know that they belong in a school, that we value them. And but as I've said, it's not easy, but we really do what we can. We try our best.
All right, MEC, thank you so much for your time. You certainly do have a mammoth task ahead of you. We wish you all the best. Thank you for your time and for joining us this evening. That was the MEC for Community Safety in the Western Cape, Anroux Marais.